Heather, as Mike mentioned, there's the constitutional aspect, which you mentioned, but there's also the political consequences. Whether they're good or bad, there's going to be a political fallout. Are you worried about the impact this could have on 2020 and how it would shine a spotlight perhaps on Joe Biden, who's leading in the polls?
Listen, Joe Biden was quite measured in his comments about this. It needs to be investigated, needs to be examined. The Congress needs to do its job, and the Congress will do its job. Congress will also investigate and will also legislate. And that is what they've been doing up until now. There are many, many measures that have been approved by the House that are sitting in Mitch McConnell's graveyard, and they're just waiting to be examined and legislated and passed by the Senate, unfortunately. And the Congress will continue to do that. What is unique about this situation is that there are a lot of districts that have flipped from red to blue in 2018, and those districts are quite conservative districts. And the freshman members who are sitting in those in the House right now, young Democratic members of the House, they don't take their seat for granted. They're working very hard to preserve it. They know that those kitchen table issues are what put them into the House. They will continue to legislate on those issues, but many of them come to the House with a national security background, and 7 of them penned an op-ed in the Washington Post yesterday. And they take quite seriously the oath of office that they swore when they were serving in the military, in the CIA, in the NSA,
so
and now as members of the House.
Do you think that there will be an impeachment vote? Do you think it will come to an impeachment vote in the House?
Listen, they don't need to take an impeachment vote to open this inquiry. They have 2/3 of the Democratic caucus, and there's more than the House is a majority Democrat. Okay, they can proceed now with full steam ahead with these inquiries that are going in the committees, okay? And the review on this particular issue about the Ukraine or anything that comes out of the whistleblower complaint can go forward in the intelligence committees, both in the House and if the Senate wishes to sit in joint session, which I believe they do because they have taken a unanimous vote that they want to see the whistleblower complaint, which means the GOP is also behind this, and they also want to hear everything behind this whistleblower complaint.
Negotiations even going on right now, reportedly between White House lawyers and congressional attorneys about releasing the whistleblower report. Would it be redacted? Would it be in full? And who would get to see it? We also want to note last night, here on I-24 News, we interviewed Democratic Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey about the launching of the inquiry at this time.
Well, understand that an inquiry as it relates to impeachment is not the same thing as deciding on an impeachment. An inquiry is to provide all of the information necessary to make the determination as to whether or not impeachable offenses have been committed. And then if all of that information gives rise to the fact that there are impeachable offenses that have been committed, then the committee, the Judiciary Committee, would vote on articles of impeachment. They would bring it to the House, and then it would come to the Senate as the trier of the facts and the law. So, I think that understanding the nature between an inquiry and an actual impeachment is incredibly important.
Heather, Are you disappointed that an impeachment inquiry wasn't opened on the largely the same set of facts for a quid pro quo with Russia, with the Russian meddling in the election, with the Mueller report? Should this have been done earlier? Shouldn't Pelosi have done this before?
Listen, in fact, that is what was happening. Nadler stated that there was an impeachment inquiry that was going forward on the Mueller investigation facts, okay? And he was trying to get to the bottom of it. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of obstruction. Just recently, Corey Lewandowski's testimony before his committee, before Nadler's committee, was just an example of more obstruction, where Lewandowski claimed privilege that wasn't his own. He was claiming it on behalf of the president and the White House. And he said that he knew that he was declaring a privilege that wasn't his own to declare.
The obstruction was a big issue here.
Yes, of course. So this is just yet another example of obstruction upon obstruction upon obstruction. And the fact of the matter is that we only needed a majority in order to proceed with an inquiry. Now we have more than 2/3. of the House, and so we're moving forward, and we have many of the more conservative districts who are on board, and so we also have the Speaker taking a lead position on this, and that is what is different today.
All right, Heather, thank you so much. I want to touch base with I-24 News religious affairs correspondent Mike Wagenheim, live for us in New York this morning. Mike, Trump faces a formal impeachment inquiry. It's only the fourth time this has ever happened in American history. What does this mean for the Trump Middle East peace plan? Is this the nail in the coffin for the release?
Nail in the coffin was long ago. This shouldn't impact the peace plan positively, negatively, or anything else in between. You kind of, when you're dealing with President Donald Trump, you're kind of baking in the cost of doing business, the distractions that come up, the various misdirections that come up. So this is not going to affect the delivery of the peace plan. If it wasn't this going on for Donald Trump, it would be some other distraction, usually self-created from within the White House. So the peace plan was likely not going to be rolled out to begin with, at least not in its form that anybody really expected. It was labeled a vision a few weeks ago, and I think that's more of the angle that the White House is taking at this point, not knowing where the Israeli government is heading at this point, still dealing with the Palestinian Authority that is obstinate and not acquiescing to the White House's demands, and dealing with an Arab world that they thought was going to come on board with their plan, their vision, and they just haven't come around. So the nail in the coffin was long ago. This won't have any impact either way.
So, Mike, then in terms of Trump's other Middle East policies, especially with Iran, could this reframe his efforts diplomatically when it comes to bringing Iran to the negotiating table, with even perhaps a meeting at the UN this week?
I'm not really so sure. Again, Donald Trump has been dealing with these various scandals almost from the time he set foot in the White House, and yet other powers choose to either do business with him or to not to do business with him, or do business with him when it's convenient. So Iran is not going to look at this and say, well, Donald Trump may be impeached, so now we're going to hold back from a meeting or what have you. Donald Trump, everything seems to bounce off him like Teflon, and so I don't think Iran is looking at this situation or other world powers and saying, well, we thought maybe we could reach a resolution, but now that he's dealing with an impeachment inquiry, maybe we should back off. They'll continue choosing the path that they chose long ago in dealing with Donald Trump, positively, negatively, or otherwise. I don't think it's going to impact Donald Trump's vision of what he wants to do with Iran. Remember, you have to have some sort of coherent policy in order to allow things like this to redirect you in one direction or another. There hasn't really been a coherent policy, at least not at the presidential level, when you're dealing with Donald Trump. Seems to wake up in the morning and decide where he wants to head. So the fact that he's now suddenly dealing with an impeachment inquiry, I don't think is going to impact his foreign policy.
All right, Mike Wagenheim, live for us in New York. Thank you so much, Mike. Good to see you. And Heather as well. Thank you so much, Heather Stone with Democrats Abroad Israel, for your perspective as well.